I worked night security at a small office building on the edge of town. The job was simple. Just walk the floors, check every door, and stare at camera screens, and repeat. After a while, every night blurred into the same quiet routine. At 1:40 a.m., I noticed something strange on the monitors. The third floor conference room lights were on. That floor was supposed to be completely empty. There were no late workers that I was aware of. I don't think there were any cleaners scheduled that night either. I assumed someone forgot to switch them off before leaving. It happens more often than you think. Still, part of the job is checking things like that. So I grabbed my keys and took the elevator up. When the doors opened, the hallway was silent. The kind of silence that feels thick. The only light came from the conference room at the far end. Its door was slightly open, just enough for the light to spill into the dark hallway. I walked toward it slowly. My footsteps echoed louder than usual. As I got closer, I noticed something else. The motion sensor lights along the hall weren't turning on like they normally did. It was like the hallway didn't know I was there. I pushed the conference door room open, and the room was empty. The chairs were all pushed in neatly, the tables were super clean, I couldn't see any laptops or bags, and there was not really any sign anyone had used it. The only thing that was on was the projector, and on the screen was a live camera feed of the hallway behind me. I stepped inside and looked closer. It was definitely the hallway. It was the same carpet pattern and the same exit sign. What the fuck? Same dark stretch leading back towards the elevator as well. And then I saw movement on the screen. A figure is standing behind me in the hallway. I turned around immediately, and I saw nothing. The hallway was empty. It was completely empty. I looked back at the screen, and the figure was still there. It was standing exactly where I had just been standing seconds ago, but it wasn't moving anymore. It was just watching the camera. Then it started walking towards the conference room door. On the screen, but not in real life. I didn't see anything. I backed out of the room slowly without turning around again. The projector light flickered behind me as I stepped into the hallway. Then I walked straight to the elevator and pressed the button to get the hell out of there. While I waited, I could hear footsteps behind me. They were slow, measured, and the scariest thing about them, they were getting closer. But when I turned around, the hallway was still empty. The elevator doors finally opened. I stepped inside and pressed the lobby button. As the doors closed, I got one last glance down the hall. The conference room door was now fully closed. I never touched it after opening it. The next morning, I asked the day manager if anyone had used the third floor conference room overnight. He checked the log and said no. Then he checked the camera footage for that time. He said that the hallway feed from 1:30 to 2 a.m. was just static. I worked overnight shifts as a gas station just off a quiet stretch of the highway. It was midnight to 5 in the morning, and most nights were really slow. Maybe one or two customers an hour, lots of sitting, lots of staring out into an empty parking lot, and most of all, which is also the best, a lot of Netflix. Around 3:10 a.m. one night, a car pulled into the lot and parked by pump 3. The driver didn't get out, and he just sat there with the engine running. Now, I didn't think of much of it at first. People stop to check directions or make phone calls all the time. Some people, they just need to find something in their car. So, it's all good. But when 10 minutes passed and the person was still there, I got a bit worried. So, I walked to the front window and tried to get a better look. The interior light in the car was off. So, all I could see was a silhouette behind the wheel, and it was completely still. Then, the headlights turned off. What the hell, I thought? I didn't even see him move. The engine kept running, but the lights went dark. The car just sat there in the dim glow of the parking lot lamps. That's when my phone buzzed on the counter. Unknown number, it said. I answered without thinking. Hello? A voice whispered. Don't look at the car. I froze. What? Don't look at the car, the voice repeated. He knows when you're watching. The line went dead. I stood there for a moment, trying to convince myself it was a prank. I thought it was just someone messing with me. Maybe it was Daniel, one of my best friends. He would do stuff like this. But honestly, my heart was already racing, and I think that, Daniel would probably be sleeping at this moment. I slowly looked back towards the lot anyway. The car was no longer at pump 3. It was now parked directly in front of the entrance. I never saw it move. I didn't hear any tires moving. I didn't see any headlights. It seems that it was just there, like it teleported without me even realizing. Right outside the glass doors, the silhouette was there as well. I couldn't see inside anymore from where I stood. The angle was wrong. The windshield reflected the store lights back at me like a mirror. I slowly walked towards the door, and I tried to stay calm. As I got closer, I noticed the driver's door was open, but there was no one inside the car, and there was also no one standing outside the car, but the engine was still running. Really, really weird, I thought. I stopped a few feet from the glass and leaned slightly to look into the car. The driver's seat was empty, just like before. The keys were still in the ignition and the radio was off. Then the phone rang behind me. I jumped and turned around. The phone on the counter was ringing loudly in the quiet store. I walked back to answer it. When I picked it up, the same whisper said, "He's inside now." I turned towards the entrance. The car outside was gone. The front door was still locked, but the bell above it was slowly swinging. It seemed like someone was there, and it's safe to say I called the police, I ran out of there, and I never came back. I worked night shifts as a cleaner in a small hospital. Most of my job was mopping hallways and restocking supply rooms. After midnight, the place felt completely different. It felt quieter, dimmer, like the building itself was asleep. And, honestly, it was. One night around 2:25 a.m., I was assigned to clean the old wing. It wasn't really used anymore. It was basically just storage rooms and a few empty patient rooms waiting to be renovated. Just some old junk in there, to be honest. The lights in the wing were always dim. Half of them didn't work, and the hallway stretched long and narrow with old tile floors that echoed with every step that you take. I was halfway down the corridor when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around. There was no one there. I figured it was just the echo of my own shoes, and old buildings do that sometimes, so I kept walking. Then I heard them again. Slower this time. The steps were not matching my pace. It was one step, pause, another step, pause, and so on. I stopped. The footsteps behind me took one more step, and then stopped as well. I turned around again. Still nothing. I just saw the long empty hallway and the flickering ceiling lights. How could this be, I thought. That's when I noticed one of the old patient rooms. The door was slightly open. A thin line of light was coming from the inside. That room wasn't supposed to have power anymore. Maintenance had shut it off months ago. I walked towards it slowly, and instantly the air felt colder the closer I got. I could hear a faint humming sound coming from inside the room, like a fluorescent bulb struggling to stay on. I pushed the door open. The room was empty, except for a hospital bed in the middle of the center. The mattress had a deep indentation, like someone had been sitting there recently. I stood in the doorway, staring at it. This is not possible. This wing hasn't been used for months. No one can get in there without the proper security. And then I saw the mattress shifted. What the fuck, I thought. The indentation lifted slightly. It was like weight being removed. Like someone had just stood up right in front of me, but there was no one there. I stepped back immediately into the hallway, and the humming sound stopped. The light inside the room flickered once, and then went out completely. The hallway lights behind me flickered too. One by one, they dimmed until only the light above me remained on. Then, that one went out as well. I stood in complete darkness for a few seconds before the emergency lights kicked in. When they did, the hallway looked a little bit different. It looked like it was longer and like it was stretched farther than it should have. And at the far end, near the exit sign, I saw a figure standing there, and it was watching me. I was terrified. But then, when I blinked, it was gone. I didn't really talk about it to anyone, and I just finished my shift without going back into that wing. The next night, I asked maintenance about the room with the bed. They told me that room had been cleared out weeks ago, and that there hadn't been a bed in there for a long time. This happened to me 3 years ago, and I still can't forget. I work somewhere else now, and nothing bad has happened ever since.